Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Guys, I am not Lee. Does anybody know where Lee is? Hopefully getting close. So we're all gathered. I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to grab the microphone as we prep for Lee. If you guys don't know who Lee is, she is like the godmother of Keller Williams in Utah and a personal mentor of mine. I learned a lot of my listing skill set from Lee as well. So it's an awesome opportunity to have her teaching. But while we wait to bring a little value as we're hanging out, can we just have an open discussion and just get real for a second on listings? How is the market when it comes to being a listing agent? Ready, set, go. What do you guys think? What do you think, Paris? Good or bad?
Well, I don't have this now, but I've heard they're sitting a little more. Some are sitting a little more, but I think the ones that are done well are going fast still.
So listings that are done well go fast. Is that a true statement? There's a lot of nodded heads. Yep, I'd agree. So listings that are done bad, the opposite then? They sit and collect cobwebs. What do you guys think? Are we speaking truth or are we lying to ourselves? Who thinks it's true? Who's got a listing? Raise your hand. Who's got an active listing? Raise your hand. Anyone got any under contracts? Raise your hand. Under contract listings. Okay. So we have a lot of active listings. What are you guys experiencing? Crickets? Good showings, bad? Talk to us, Colleen. A lot of showings.
Well, I don't have an offer, but one's only been on the market for 2 days.
Okay, so you've got a handful of listings. You're a veteran in the room. Would you call this an up market, a down market, a flat market? How would you describe this market in a sentence? For listings, we're talking listings.
Down. I mean, it's hard. It's not easy like it was for sure. Most of my listings go on kind of done. Carpet, paint, stage, really good. And before you did that, you sold in a week, 2 weeks, and that's just not the case. And a lot of mine that I've been going through lately, they bought just 2 years ago. It's really hard to get them in the plus now. And that's just a hard reality for sellers to come to. They're not necessarily going to sell.
It's a sensitive market. Every little thing matters, right? Yeah.
Especially if they were selling.
Yeah.
Or purchasing, because now they're listing and they're not even giving into $2,000 on coming down for a buyer. And I'm like, I would take this in a run, but they're like, no, it'll sell.
Yeah, it's interesting. Lee, I hope you don't mind. We just started talking market. Just everyone's gut check as we're. Yeah. Well, I guess before we wrap up and turn the time over to Lee, I just want to acknowledge probably the biggest aha I've had in the last 60 days surrounding this conversation was with Gary, and he asked the room, just like this said, how many people think it's an up market? How many people think it's a down market? And more than half raised their hand. But then he said, how many of you are having the best year of your career? And about the other half of the room raised their hand and said, this is our best year yet. And he said, we keep pouring over the stats, and what people forget to do is zoom out a little bit and realize that this is by definition and by statistically the most balanced market we've seen in decades. He said, so really this is the standard. What we're experiencing today really should reset our standard of this is balanced and normal. So if the market improves, that's up. And if it goes down, it goes down. But today is the standard. But every one of us in the room feels it's a down market because of what we experienced over the last 5 years. We're not zooming out far enough. We're experiencing the last 5 years where homes did sell in 2 weekends, or a weekend, I should say. And the market was just totally in a seller's favor and not in a buyer's. Whereas now, about half our listings are totally still in the seller's favor. There's multiple offers, believe it or not. Not nearly as many, but there's a few out there. And then the other half are kind of in the buyer's favor, where we can maybe beat on the seller a little bit for some concessions and things. So it is a balanced market. So I think we should take Gary's advice and zoom out and recognize that, hey, this is balanced. We should perhaps just enjoy it a little bit.
I was gonna say, the nice thing about a balanced market is that they need us. Flat simple, they need us. In the market where everything was selling the first weekend, sellers really didn't need us. Buyers did. Buyers needed us in order to unlock the door. You didn't have much value beyond that. Okay? Now with it being level markets, my favorite market and actually right now, this average time on market is 47 days. My favorite market is when the average time on market is 90 to 120 days, because both sides need you. It's real easy to articulate your value. So I think it's a great market. We're finding 30% of the time we're in multiple offers. How about for you guys on Red Sign? Yeah, okay, 25 to 30% of the time, multiple offers. So I know one of the things I'm saying to my buyers every time I'm working with them at the beginning of working with them is when we find a good one, you won't be the only one that thinks it's good. And so we could be taking a little longer to find a good one, but unfortunately that good one you'll probably be competing for. So we have to act like it was the market from 3 years ago, just in case that happens. And it happens a lot.
That's my first expired listing in the last 30 days. I've had
Yeah, that used to be my sweet spot. That was my money maker. Oh, yours expired?
Pricing from the last few years, couldn't get it right. I thought I had a full-on identity crisis.
Wow.
No, they just went off market, but then of course Redex sucked him in and said, what do I do about the 30 phone calls I'm getting a day from realtors trying to prospect me? And I thought, boy, I haven't dealt with this in years.
Wow. Wow. I like the market right now. I hope you do too. Well, I'm going to put this down for just a second. A quick question for you. I've got an email, Clay, that I need to send to somebody so we can put it up here. And I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
The one thing everybody will learn.
Yeah, are you?
Who do I send it to?
To Cameron at redsign.com.
Okay, just sent it to you. So can I call you up here when it's time? We have to kill time because we're supposed to start at 10:30, correct? With 10. Sorry, I'm late. I had us down at 10:30 to 11:30. Okay, well then I really do apologize. Okay, first of all, turn your phones off if they go on and they ring. It's a $25 donation to KW Cares. If you answer it, it's $50 and we're okay with your answering it. $50, KW Cares, stays in this office. So I'm Lee Stern. I'm up at the Sugar House office in Salt Lake City and still selling lots of real estate and loving what I do. So my specialty has been listings for a long time, although I do find myself doing a fair number of, not a fair number, probably like 10 buyers a year is all, but for me, I guess that's a fair number of buyers. They asked me to come back. How many of you were here? I think it was 3 years ago when I did the listing series. Okay, so a few, wonderful. We're going to follow very similarly, a few additions this time. based on the market, but we're going to follow that series. So I've got a quick story that I read from Jay Papasan. I got it last week, and I thought, oh, I need to tell you all this story. So the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. Unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. And this was by W.H. Murray. So the story is the broken down car theory. While driving with my son, we spotted a broken down car across the intersection was blocking traffic. Gus asked if we should stop and help. I said we would, but we needed to get to the parking lot across the street so we wouldn't be blocking traffic. While we waited for the light to change, the driver got out, started pushing his car forward with one arm through the window on the steering wheel. Almost instantly, 4 or 5 other people hopped out and helped him push it around the corner and into a gas station. And Gus simply said, wow. I knew this was one of those moments parents are gifted with, and I asked, what do you think happened here? Well, that was awesome, he replied. Everyone just helped him out. Actually, he helped himself first. Then everyone else pitched in. Okay? I don't have to finish the rest of the story. This series is about you helping yourself. So each week for 1 hour, starting next week at 10, and each week thereafter at 10, we will do a section of becoming masterful at your listing. And after that section, my expectation for each and every one of you is that you will take whatever we talked about and go implement that and come back with it the next week to prepared. Okay? Then we will move to the next section, then the next session. So this is a working man, working woman's series. Okay? So if you're not into doing the work and helping yourself, this would be the time to get up and leave. So I have commitment from everybody here that when I come in next week and I walk the room, telling you what I'm going to do, I walk the room that you are going to have your listing presentation in front of you, correct? Not heads, I can't read minds. Okay, good, cool, thanks. Okay, so the thing I always like to remember is that most people are visual learners. Some are auditory, kinesthetic, but most are visual learners. This is true of people just everywhere in the world. Knowing that, you know the saying, picture's worth 1,000 words? Say, knowing that, then from my perspective, I've always thought you need to have a listing presentation that's visual. So years ago, I had the first laptop in Salt Lake City, and I am the least tech savvy agent you'll ever meet. But I had the first laptop, big fat thing, $4,000. People came from miles to see it. It was an amazing thing. I'm not kidding. Can somebody open that door? Thank you. And I thought when we did a visual that I would just take my computer and have it on the computer. It seemed to make sense to me till I got to a house that didn't have internet. And that was before my phone was a hotspot. So I now have a visual paper presentation that I'd use for people. And so that is what I'm going to suggest, is that next week, everyone comes with a visual presentation, okay? And that way we can all kind of look at each other's. And I have mine, it's sitting in the back seat of my car on the passenger side. Will you help me with this?
Yeah, that pen's dead though.
Okay, my zip code, 84020
Okay.
is my code. You swipe down on the next to the car
Yeah, okay.
and get my card open. Back seat passenger side in the flap is my presentation.
Thank you. Which car?
Oh, sorry. We golfed together. I thought he noticed what I drove. It's a red Prius. It's parked in your guest parking. 84020. Yep. Sorry, I brought all the rest of my stuff and left that behind the car. So anyways, I want you to all come in next time with the visual. Now, they're not all going to look the same. They don't need to look the same. Okay? They don't all need to say the same things. How many of you are in the business a year or less? Okay, so fair number. So I remember my first year in real estate, I just felt dumber than a rock. Anybody understand that? Yeah, totally dumber than a rock. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to compete against Clay Winder on a listing? Nobody's going to want me. They're going to want Clay, right? Anybody else feel that way? Okay, so in the red book, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, which I'm hoping all of you have. If you don't, you can get it from your team leader here. There is an entire list of an entire marketing plan. It is 16, I think, ways to market a listing. If you take that and just use that as your marketing plan, you're gonna be better than 90% of the agents who go on a presentation. So that was my goal, was to be better than 90%, which still meant I was dumber than a rock, but I looked good, okay? I used to play the Realtor League or the real estate board in Salt Lake, had a softball league. This is like 35 years ago. And I played on the softball league and I put together a team for my office. We had uniforms. We looked good. And we'd get to the ball game and the other team from the other companies would go, oh boy, serious. By the end of the first inning, they understood how poor we were. But you can look good, sound good, and be good. Now, how many of you are going to work hard for your clients? Great. Almost everybody. Some are lazy. Okay. How many of you are going to be honest with your clients? Again, almost everybody. So I used to say to myself, and find that now 53 years later, I still say it to myself on the drive to the appointment. And what I say to myself is, I'll be letting them down if I don't take their listing. You see, nobody's going to work harder for them than me. Nobody's going to be more honest with them than me. I'm going to be letting them down if I don't take this listing. That's the little radio station in my head. And it's right before I get to their house. So where we get nervous and afraid, not finding it. So on the driver door, above the door handle, there's a black trim. Just slide your fingers down it and lights will light up. I know, I'm cool. Okay. Actually, my car is smarter than me. I'm not cool. So anyways, mindset is important. How many of you feel like you maybe lack confidence? I think I lacked a lot of confidence. So I think I have to kind of fake my way into it. So let's talk just a little about that. I know the biggest confidence builder is what you say in your head and how you come prepared for the appointment. So if you have a presentation, that's going to be better than probably 3 or 4 out of 5 realtors. Most realtors are going to walk in and wing it. If you walk in on purpose, prepared, you are already miles ahead of your competition, miles ahead. Rarely do they ask me how long I've been in real estate. And that's true even when I was 9. I started when I was 19. So even when I was 19, that's true. So, and I know for me, for those of you who've been in for just like a year, I can remember coaching agents to say, feels like a lifetime, but it's going on a year. It's an easy way to not say I was brand new. Okay. But rarely when you come prepared, they don't ask you. How many of you are worried about the objections you might get from a seller? Paris a little bit, nobody else. That shocks me. It shocks me because what are you going to do when they say, so would you do it at 5%? Yeah. She says she better have her value ready. She didn't overcome the objection. She just realized she had one. Okay? What are you gonna do if they say, well, we only want to list it for 30 days? Try you out. Practicing your objections, and we'll get to those. That'll be on a different week. But being ready for those objections is a really, really important thing for us to be able to do. Now, another secret. If you come well prepared, you have a presentation, and you're good at your presentation, rarely do I get an objection of any kind. The objections are really created by your tentativeness. So if you cannot be tentative, if you can feel confident in yourself, then chances are you will get 0 objections, which I think is kind of cool. Sorry, the other thing I was going to say just ran out of my head. Okay, so let's think about what else can you do to be prepared. One of the things you were doing when I got here, and that was going through the market. How many, for me, I run numbers every Monday. So right now, along the Wasatch Front, so I run them for Wasatch Front. Right now, along the Wasatch Front, there are about 9,200 properties for sale. And somebody will say to me, well, like I had a guy in an open house. This was about 2 months ago. He came into the open house and I asked him how long he'd been looking. And he said, but this is a lousy time to buy. So I'm just looking. And I went, wow. 508 people disagreed with you last week and bought a house. I don't think they were stupid. They understand the prices are going up and the interest rates aren't changing. So they're temporarily going to get this interest rate, but they're going to lock in their price. I think they were pretty smart, and I walked away. I did, just walked to another room. I came back and re-engaged him later, but I needed him to have a minute to think about what he was saying to himself. Because he had some stinking thinking. He was basing his decisions on headlines. Okay? And that's real common. And maybe all that they read are just headlines. And do the headlines tell you that you can't afford to buy a house right now? Yeah, there are whole news shows on why, kids buying first-time homes can't afford to buy a house. I've got one closing on the 26th of this month. It's the granddaughter of one of my past clients. And she and her husband, 21 years old, sold them a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-car garage condo in Saratoga for $351,900. It has gone up $11,000 since they bought it 2 months ago. We haven't closed on it yet. It's new construction. They're using the governor's $20,000 money, and they're going to come to closing, and we're going to give them a check for $1,300 and some dollars. Cost them nothing. And it's their first step to wealth. They're going to stay in that house for a year, and then I'm going to sell them a different house. They're going to keep that condo because we made sure it's in an area that they can rent, and that will become their first pathway towards their wealth building. Okay. Now, that's off the listing topic, but let me continue on it for just a moment. I have a real passion for what I call my youngsters. My youngsters are my 30 and below typically. And when I meet a youngster, what's your name? All right, I'm going to meet Taylor. So Taylor, the thing that worries me the most for you is this. How are you going to retire? I know it's a long ways away and you haven't probably thought about it, but I'm like thinking about it going, you're not going to have Social Security. And every company's trying to get rid of pensions. And where I may live to be like 85, my mother's 92, you're going to live to be like 100. So how will you retire? Will you be the greeter at Walmart? Is that really what your life is going to be about? Is that you just have to keep working? It shouldn't be, should it? So I think one of the things we need to do is create a pathway of wealth building for you. Can I tell you what that looks like? Okay. So we want to buy a first house that's going to be a rental, and you're going to rent it from yourself. And you're going to be in that for about a year. Can't open it? Anybody in here have a Ford Escape that knows how to, would you take her out at my zip code A4020? Thank you I'm so sorry, honey. Thank you. And then in a year, and you're gonna live there, and then in a year, we're gonna buy another one and you're gonna move and you're gonna rent that one. So that one can pay for itself and we're gonna buy something else. And then a year later, I'm gonna come knock at your door and say, it's time. And we're gonna do that until your first child goes into first grade, and then I'll stop bugging you. So my goal is that you'll have, 5 or 6 houses by that time. Because that way, by the time you're 55, how old are you? Oh, even before 55, you'll own 6 or 7 houses. It is wonderful. I own 6 plus my own house. And that makes me a really lovely income because they're all paid off every single month. So should we see about getting you on that path?
Yes.
Okay. I have a young man who graduated from college 3 years ago. And he called me, he went to Southern University down in St. George, was the captain of the football team, Rocky Mountain Athlete of the Month, just a darling guy who sat next to me at jazz games for like 6 or 7 years. And so he and I built up a relationship. So he called me 3 weeks after he graduated when he got his first paycheck. And he said, Lee, we need to meet. They're paying me more money than I know what to do with. So we met. And so Remington, thank you both so very, very much. And you learned how to open a car. Yeah, I know. I know.
Now have a very close relationship.
Oh. So don't anybody who has the Prius feel like he invaded your space, please. So anyways, Remington now owns 4 doors, 1 duplex and 2 houses. He has renters in all of them. He's actually living in his mom's house. But the reason I make the move is because then they have less money down to do it, but interest rate is better. So it does mean when they're young, they have to move every year, which is a real pain in the butt. But retirement at 100 is more painful than moving, 3 or 4 or 5 times when you're young. Okay. So that's one of my passion projects right now is that one. So again, I have this conversation with everybody that comes into my open houses. Okay. And most of them will tell me they're saving money for a house. The reality is they can't outsave this market. Even this year, where it was suggested that prices were going to go up only 2%, they've now readjusted that and expect they'll be up 5%. How many people could have saved 5% of their income in a year? They probably can't. So they can't outsave the market either. So you have to have those kind of conversations with people. Yes.
Have that conversation with
Mhm.
them. You set them on a topic. You're going to need X amount of dollars and start saving for your next home. How do you get that down?
No. So for example, with Courtney and Ethan, they're just using the 20,000. They're not coming in with any money.
And that's for first, but for their second one.
Yeah, for their second one, yes, they can do that. There'll also be equity in their house that they may be able to take a portion of that. But no, I also coach them on a very conservative lifestyle. Yeah, I have clients who are like, Lee, she let me go out to dinner. We got to go out to dinner last month. Seriously, this was after I sold them something that had an ADU in the bottom, and they just got a policeman to rent it for $1,550, the 1-bedroom downstairs. So that's supplementing that income. That will continue, as will the rent. And by the way, the rent will count as income. So that also helps them in qualifying. Yes. What loan has to be owner occupied? It's no, it's okay. Well, Samantha and sorry, Samantha and her husband. The one with the policeman in the basement. They live in that house and they moved into that house in January. Policeman moved in the basement in February. He's paying $15.50 a month. She just called me, Gabe. Gabe just got an offer for a full ride scholarship up in Idaho if he'll play on the baseball team while he gets his master's. And so she called and said, oh my gosh, can we do that with the FHA loan we have? And I said, when does school start? And she said, August. I said, yep. When she got an FHA loan, the intention is that it will be owner occupied, not that it has to be owner occupied forever. And there is no real time frame, but usually most people say like 6 months, but there isn't a written time frame. But it was their intent to do that. And they didn't have an offer for a scholarship at that point in time. And so now they're going to rent the upstairs and the basement's already rented to the cop. I do let them know that that's not a duplex and that at some point in time, if somebody complained about having tenants up and down, that could stop. And the best way to solve that problem is to become the best neighbor in that neighborhood. Because then they'll call you instead of the police. So her second day at her new house, long before the cop moved in, second day at the house, she texted me and said, met my first new neighbor. I train my people well. And, you know, the thing is, and this is true with buyers and with sellers, they're looking for someone who's going to lead them to their goals. So whether I am, you know, representing a seller or whether I'm representing a buyer, whatever their goals are, my job is to lead them to their goal. Too many agents do the, well, what do you think? You know, what do you want to do? That's not what they're asking. And I am very direct. And I get permission to be very direct before I become very direct, but I am very, very direct. 2 years ago, we were doing our pie deliveries, and all of our clients come and get pies before Thanksgiving. And yeah. Anyways, I was outside in the parking lot with Lila and Charles, one of my clients, and then John and Debbie came up. And I'm talking to both of them now. And I said, do you guys know each other? Because you like live a street and a half away from each other. And they're like, no. So I introduce them and then Paul shows up. So I leave the 4 of them to go deliver a pie to Paul. And I come back and here's the conversation between the 2 of them. It was hysterical. Well, that's nothing. Do you know what she made me do to get the house ready? Oh, well, really? Let me tell you, she had us do this, this, and this. Well, she had us doing all of that, but you know, here's the best part. We set a new high price in our neighborhood. Oh, no. In our neighborhood, nothing had ever sold for that amount. And she was able to get, I'm sitting there just smiling at the 2 of them. I had been so, you would all say I've been very hard on them. But I had been very specific about what they needed to do to get their house ready. And here they are, proud of themselves and defending that decision. And they were both right. We set new highest price points in both those neighborhoods. Okay? That was leadership on my part. Okay? You have to feel confident to be the leader. There's a reason why they don't put the brand new private in the Army in charge. Okay? You have to be knowledgeable. So let's go back to what makes you knowledgeable, because this is where your confidence really grows. What makes you knowledgeable are simple things like talking about the market, knowing the market. On your team meetings, do you guys talk about market statistics and what's happening? Okay. So any chance you get, you want to be talking about the market. Run your numbers every Monday. These numbers are for the board. Okay, so, or your area. If you're just working Utah County, then just run Utah County numbers. If you're only working a neighborhood, run those numbers. If you're working the Wasatch Front, then run the Wasatch Front. So you decide. But I pull how many listings are active, how many came on in the last 7 days, how many sold in the last 7 days? How many went under contract in the last 7 days? What the average number of days on the market is? And then what is your interest rates? Your lender can give you those. And I just track that. So I know whether like 47 days on the market is exactly how many days it was the week before. Okay. So I know whether that's up or down. And the reason I want to do that is because then if I see it up for 4 weeks, I have a trend. If I see it down for 4 weeks, I have a trend. I typically will see trends before the average realtor ever sees a trend. Part of that is the Stern team does a volume. That's good. But really the biggest part of that is we look at numbers every single Monday. We run the numbers for the last 7 days. And it takes 5 minutes to run those numbers on the MLS. And if you don't know how to do that, then that might be a good class for someone to come in from the MLS and teach you how to run those, because it really is even I can do that one. Okay, that's always how we gauge, is it easy? Okay, the next way to build your confidence is for you to practice. So too often realtors practice on clients. What's the average commission sale price here in Utah County? Anybody know the average commission or the average sales price? $550. Okay, so that would be 3% of 550, about 15,000, 16.5. Thank you. So if you went out and practiced on a client, that's a $16,500 practice session. That's a bad oops. And you think about how many oopses you might have before you have a down pat. You're giving away a year's salary and nothing flat. So how do you practice your presentation? Shout out, how could you practice your presentation? Role plays. I like role plays a lot. I believe you should role play with a different person each time, okay? Because each person's going to give you different feedback. I think that when you're on the other side of the role play, so if you and I are role playing, I'm going to come and role play my listing presentation. She's going to critique it. Tell me your name. Okay, Barbara's going to critique it. Barbara's going to tell me what she liked about it. That's her first thing. She's going to tell me what maybe I missed. And then she's going to tell me what I could do better. If Barbara gives me her presentation and after the presentation, I go, oh, that was good. That taught her nothing. That is not a good role play partner. A good role play partner gives her good feedback and stuff she can work on to get better. The other reason you want to do it to different people. The other reason is different personality types. So, I may be talking to a high I here, and I might be talking to a high D here, and an S here, and a C there. I need to be able to figure out how can I adjust my presentation to best fit my client. And somebody will say, well, that sounds like manipulation. No, no, no. I understand that this seller or this buyer can never make a decision. These are important decisions I'm asking them to make. They can never make the decision if they're uncomfortable. So my goal is to make them comfortable so they can reach whatever decision they want. I'm not vested in the decision as much as I'm vested in their ability to have comfort in making a decision. Okay. So there's an agent, Norm, can't remember Norm's last name, in San Diego. When Norm first got started in real estate about 22 years ago, he was dumber than a rock. Okay. So he scheduled every day at 2 o'clock and at 5 o'clock for an appointment. And that's what he put in his calendar, appointment. Okay. Now, do you think he had many appointments this first month in real estate? No. Just like all the rest of us, probably not. However, he gave his presentation at 2 o'clock and at 5 o'clock every day to someone. So if you did that Monday through Friday, you would have given your presentation 20 times. Do you think Norm was good after 1 month in real estate? Norm is sensational. But Norm specifically decided he was going to master his scripts, master the words that work. Okay, so that's exactly what he did. Now you've got a big room in here. You can give your presentation to a different person every day for the next 20, and you can just do it with people in this room. And 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock are the times I would do it, but those were the actual times Norm did it.
Tuesday, TV with the Gary Keller, we're doing role play practices. You are without excuse.
There you go. And really, that's how much does it cost him to come to that?
Remember your KWPs.
Okay, so basically it's free
Yeah.
versus these $15,000 or $16,500 you could pay to go out and do one in front of a real person, a real seller. Okay, so I'd recommend doing that. And by the way, once you have your presentation done, the other thing you're going to have to practice on your lead generation scripts and also your objection handling scripts. And we'll be talking about the objection handling scripts during this listing series. Okay, so thank you very much for both of you getting that. So this is my presentation. I have it in a 3-ring binder, but it doesn't fit behind my seat. So I put it in here. I often take the 3-ring binder. I'll just pass this around so you all get to see it. It gives you some ideas. It does not need to look like this. Now, so well, let's start it down here and we'll just kind of zigzag around. Then I'm not missing anybody. Okay, so how many of you have been on Command? Okay, great. There is a really lovely looking listing presentation in Command that will not take you 30 minutes to do a really nice professional looking listing presentation. How many of you have a visual presentation already? Okay, about maybe 30% or so. Okay, so those 30%, they're going to be all ready for class next week. They don't have to do the work. The rest of you, the other 60, 70%, you've got a presentation you put together. But I would just do the one in Command. That simple, I would. You'll need your picture, but other than that, the rest of it, you can use what they've got. And I don't have to worry that mine's going to look a lot like Barbara's, because the odds of Barbara and I ever going to the same client are like 0. Okay, so don't worry about that. Don't feel like you have to be unique or it's got to be more like me. We're not the important people here. Your clients are. Okay, so put your presentation together. All right, let's talk about what else we do in preparation, because today's class is about preparation before the listing. Next week we get into the listing. So Cameron, will you come and put up our video? So when I get a listing appointment, the first thing I do is send a confirmation of the appointment to the client via an email. So we're going to just watch that real quickly, and that'll give you another idea. You can. All right, who's been on Command? I'm your not tech savvy. InDesign, thank you, thank you.
Our promise is to deliver an experience that you cannot imagine being any better. We do everything we can to stay out in front of things, keep it as real as it can be. Just know to a person that our goal is to deliver that 5-star experience for you.
And all of this is backed up by our customer service. We're one of the most reviewed real estate teams on Google today with nearly 1,000 5-star Google reviews.
On our appointment, we're going to deep dive into our 25-point marketing plan. Now, today, I just want to highlight a couple of items.
Part of our marketing strategy is giving you massive exposure for your home.
The average agent spends less than $5,000 marketing your property.
We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars each year to make sure that we put your home in front of every single buyer that would be looking in your area.
The average real estate agent sells less than 12 transactions a year. We sell hundreds of homes every single year.
And we'll show you how this marketing plan will put more money in your pocket and sell it in a time frame that works for you.
One of the most important things that we're going to do when we come and meet with you is we're going to walk through your home room by room.
And work with you on everything that needs to be done to get your home ready to sell.
We're going to also bring in a professional photographer to make sure we highlight all the very best features about your home.
And this is important because we've got to sell your home twice. The first time online to the buyers that are viewing your home, and the next time when they actually come into your home and physically walk it. And we're going to put your home on the market on over 500 websites worldwide.
While most agents hold an open house, we have a full grand opening strategy that we're excited to share with you when we meet. So this strategy actually creates an auction-like environment that can drive the price of your home up, most of the time generating multiple offers on your home.
This will essentially put more money in your pocket and sell your home in a time frame that works for you. And we will dive into detail with this when we sit down together.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you have any questions, write them down. We'll address those when we meet in person, and we look forward to working with you.
So I want them to see you notice we used the model home at Oakwood. We gave them credit at the end. How many of you have a builder in Orem, Utah County? They're there. I've been there. Do you think they mind letting you use their model homes to do your video? Nope, they don't mind at all. Okay, makes for a great backdrop. Okay, so let's talk about, and I'm gonna have to get that email back up. Can you, sorry. The email part of it, not just the video, but the actual email part. If we can just look at that real quickly so they can see that too. Okay, so that's it, just that. Just this section right here. So please take a moment to review the Stern Team strategic selling system that we use to sell nearly a home a day. Please fill out as much of your seller's disclosures as possible before we arrive. Write down any questions you may have for us. And so you don't forget to ask when we meet. We look forward to meeting you. And normally right above it, it says we're just confirming the appointment for 1 o'clock on Monday. So that's what that says. So could you do the same kind of video? I don't know how to turn mine. Okay. So I have to read the screen. Okay, thank you very, very much. So could you do the video? You really could. You can't say all the same things we said. Many of you are new, so you can't say you're spending hundreds of thousands on marketing. But what things in there could you say? Come on, tell me some of the things you heard that you could say. Yes. Yes. Yeah, and you'll notice in a model home, there are no really strategic things they need to do. So you notice it was just his finger pointing up. He wasn't, there was not showing anything because in a model there won't be, but it got the point across. Over here, somebody said something.
I like your recreating auction-like environment to get multiple offers.
Yeah.
I have a notion of what you meant. I know how to do it, so.
Okay, so again, can anybody do that? Yeah. Anybody could do that. What else? Photography. Yeah, actually the guy who was pretending to shoot photos was just the videographer we had hired. Do you need to hire a videographer? No. Could you not? I've got agents in my office who have done this. 3 of them went out to a model home after I did this series, and they videotaped each other doing, one acted as the seller in a model home, one acted as the agent, and one acted as the video taker. Then they rotated positions, and then they did it again for the next agent. And then they rotated and did it again for the next agent. Could 3 of you not go do that? And it cost you, how much would that be? That'd be like free. Okay. So could you not do that? And like I said, your builders are so excited to have you show off their homes. And there are so many cool places to stand or sit and great backgrounds. Okay, what else did you hear that you could say? Open houses and grand opening. What else? There was a number. What was the number? 500. Thank you. Over 500 websites. Guess what? You have the same websites I have. So you can say that same thing too. Okay. So this is not hard. I think if you go to YouTube, look up the Stern Team, I think a lot of our videos are there and this one may be there. So if you need to redo, if you didn't take good notes, or, you know, each of you share notes with the other one. So the other thing that you notice, if they click on this, my entire marketing plan is there. Okay? And if you click on this, the seller's property disclosure is there. And I love to come to the meeting and have that already done. Also, when I get to the meeting, I can say to them, have you had a chance to go through our strategic marketing plan? And most of the time they say yes, occasionally they say no. Most of the time they say yes. And when they do, all I have to say to them is this. So did you have any questions about my strategic marketing plan? And what do they normally say? No. Did it sound like the plan you needed to get your home sold? And what do they normally say? Yes. And because of that, I don't have to go through my marketing plan. Now, for those of you who are really nervous about having to do a full presentation, wouldn't that make sense? Because now your presentation is really just about what they need to do in the house and building a timeline for getting it done. Okay? So this week, 60–70% of you are doing printed. Who's got the presentation? You're going to have to go faster than that if it's only gone through 3 people. I've got 50 some people here. Okay. And I think that I've given a copy of this presentation to maybe Nova Lee. So I think there is a copy of it here at your office. So not like it has to be your last look at the thing, just to give you an idea. But the one on Connect is really good, or Command is really good. So embedding these 2 things in there, your strategic marketing plan is an easy one. And then also embedding a link for the seller's property disclosure is easy. So now, why don't we just for a second, Cameron, could I get you again? So do you think you could click on this link and we'll just scroll through that really fast so they kind of see what that marketing plan looked like? All the things in the red book. How many of you put, stop for just a second on that. How many of you put a home warranty on all your listings? Seller coverage. Okay, who do you use? Elevate. Okay. Anybody use that? Anybody other than Elevate? Acclaim does it and Silverback Home Warranty also does it. I think they're the only 3 to my knowledge. And it costs me nothing. And it covers the seller and some of those items. Not as many as a buyer would have, but it does cover the seller and those things. And then when we get an offer, they're normally asking for home warranty. I just counter the offer and say the home warranty will be through Elevate Home Warranty. And that takes care of their making sure they get the business. Okay, carry on, please. What happens after we list? Part of the 500 websites. Staging, telling them what to do, things to do to get ready. As you're looking at this, it's going to be almost identical to that, if not identical. Okay, so all I've done is given it to them in a form that if they're a high, now who's going to be interested in seeing that online? Well, I think my C's in particular, my high C's, the conscientious, careful contract kind of guys are going to be very interested in seeing it. My high D's will never look at it. Just they want 3 sentences and combine it all into 3 sentences and they'll be good. And I relate to that because I am that. So my S's and my I's might sometimes look, but really it's my C's that are always going to take a peek at that. And my C is for me because I'm not a C. I have like, my C is here, about 2 inches above the ground. That's my hardest one to bond with. And so if I start with this, I got a real head start in bonding with them because I've come to them in a format that they appreciate. Okay. High C, so behavioral analysis. So you have a D for the drivers, I for the influence people, and the S for kind of stable team players, and then the C are the accountants and the CPAs and the engineers. Yeah. So it's all about the details. Okay, Cameron, I think I'm all done with everything. Yeah, even has the pricing and talking about the pricing. And this is, go back one please. So this is a really old one, but truthfully, we're now, having talked with Clay this morning, we're in that in-between of a level market. So like Clay's guys that expired, not that he didn't talk to them about it, but they had priced themselves out of the market. And therefore it does not sell. So having this in here allows you to have a conversation about the market, especially when you've got somebody who, you know, has a different idea than you have. Now, interestingly enough, I had one just a couple of weeks ago and we've got it under contract, but she was expecting $1 million too. And I got to say to her, you're way low. And so, yeah, she's getting an extra 275,000 in her pocket based on what she thought. So don't always assume that your sellers want the moon and the house is only worth earth. Rob. It's very old. When you get to the book, you'll see it's really that. It really is just a copy of that. Am I right? Those who have looked at it? Yeah, copy of that. Ahead of time. Yeah, before. And I bring my hard copy. It's always in my car, which is not a Prius. But it's always in my car. And I normally just bring that in with me in case they have any questions so we can go through something. And when they've already looked at it, even when they haven't looked at it, based on my questions, which you'll see next week when we do the presentation, I rarely am having to cover very many pages in that book, sometimes none. Oh, yeah, well, I took 2 listings last week. I never even cracked that book last week on either presentation. So sometimes you don't have to. Oh, if I have to go through the whole thing, depending on whether they need a lot of help with the staging and to get the paperwork all signed, I'd say 1.5 hours. Okay. Less if I have to do less of that stuff. More if I have a hoarder's house. Yeah, absolutely. The more, and the less objections you're going to have. And so for my people in here that are new in real estate who have admitted their confidence level is not real high, as was mine when I started also, not real high. This really, I mean, it makes you look professional. I don't care if you've been in it 2 weeks, makes you look professional. By the way, on the video, overdress for the video. Don't underdress. Yes.
Are you paying for the staging or you have the seller pay for the staging?
For staging the home, my seller would pay for it. For virtual staging, I pay for it. So right now, my one that is that we just sold, that she wanted $1.2 million and got $1,475,000. That one she did staging, and she paid for it and used my stager, and I recommended. We did a sensational job. I have one that I took last week that I have everybody emptying the house. It's an estate sale. And so it's all grandma furniture. And, you know, mixed match of 20 years or 50 years or 90 years of a gathering. And so they're getting rid of all of that. And then I'll virtually stage the living room, the kitchen, the master, and actually I'm also gonna stage the den, so 4 rooms. And I think my stager is like $45 a room for virtual. Yeah, and they do a great job, put up artwork and. You should make more money. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, good, good. Yeah. And so I probably only have to stage, I staged my one in Linden. Again, same stager, and that one we used some of their stuff plus some of her stuff. And my sellers paid for that also. And before that, I staged one in the Avenues. Sellers paid for it. We used about 4 pieces of his own stuff. He was a bachelor, not a good look. It really depends on the client's situation more than anything. So for example, this one where mom has died and it's all grandma furniture, it needs to be moved anyways. And you know, moving is an expandable job. If I gave you 6 months, it would take you the entire 6 months to do it. And if I give you 2 weeks, you'll hate me, but you'll get it done in 2 weeks. And the family needs to kind of come together and decide which pieces meant something to them. And putting that off is not easy for the survivors, the family. And so I try to get them to do that early. So in that situation, and it's going empty, that's easy. My bachelor up in the Avenues, his bachelor. You know, they were like, I said, maybe 4 pieces I wanted to use. And because it wasn't going to sell like a bachelor pad. So, I mean, everyone's different. My current one that I had stage, her furniture was browns and grays and they don't photo well. And they were not sized right for the rooms. And she didn't have a lot of art. Yeah, it's a very lovely, you know, luxury home. And so I needed her to get help to make it look that way. And she's so thrilled with how it looks. So it really varies depending on the situation.
When it comes to objection handling and presenting.
Say it loud enough, Paris, they can all hear.
When it comes to objection handling and presenting, hey, do you want to stage it yourself or have me cover it? How do you present that?
I don't want me to cover it, so I'm not going to offer that.
Right. Or if
So-
they say no, or how do you approach all of it?
So I think you're really talking about the stager thing, right? Okay, so on the stager thing, I just honestly said, unfortunately, browns and grays don't photo well. And they had the big brown, oversized leather couches. They're so comfy. I mean, they're just so comfy. And they just don't look high end. They look comfy. And I said, how much of it you're going to take this? How much of this are you going to take to Seattle? And she said, because we're downsizing, I mean, they're at a 5,600 square foot house and they're downsizing a lot. I said, so you're probably going to get rid of that. Yeah. Then maybe what we should do is get rid of it now because it's not going to photo well. And if we want to get top dollar, then we need it to photo well. I mean, let's face it, guys, it said it on the video. We have to sell a house twice now. Once online, once in person. The in-person's easy. Unfortunately, they never get to in person if you haven't done a great job on the online one. And they're looking at it a screen this size or this size. And I tell a whole story between that size and this size. So it's hard to do. So she ended up donating. There's a nonprofit that helps immigrants moving. And so they're always looking for furniture. And so I had her contact them and they took the stuff she didn't want. And so then my stager, then she had my stager, who would you, I recommend, I gave her Helena at Urban Renewal. And she came in and ultimately, Helena also had her move a couple more things because now it didn't work with the other furniture she was putting in. The style was different, but it turned out great. And she just did a 6-week package and that's all we needed. My one in Linden, I swear when they bought the house, it came well, I know, when they bought the house, it came furnished. And I think, and by a stager. And I think that stager had emptied out their warehouse and had the most odd, no go together look you've ever seen. And so I called Helena and said, come and tell me if I'm nuts or whatever. And she's like, you're not nuts. But if we move this to this room, we could make that go together. So she just had to supplement. Some of it we got rid of, but most of it she was able to supplement. I think virtual staging is simple and it's inexpensive and I do it a lot. And that one I do pay for. Rob.
So, lots of times, people are telling you they want to come on market for the next 3 days. Especially here, sold off, and out, the decluttered, personalized, complete item.
Well, I always say to the clients that I like them calling me 6 months in advance. Hopefully it'll never take 6 months, but I think they're very smart to meet with me 6 months before they'd like to be moving. Because I will give them an idea of exactly what they need to do. And it usually is more than people anticipated doing, even just the packing up. Now that isn't always the case, but I applaud them when, and they say to me, you know, we're not going to do it for 3 months. I'm like, you are so smart to be talking to me now. You know, so we can help you get it already. I also have Chick-fil-A's being used everywhere along the Wasatch Front for free boxes. The freezer boxes are fabulous and they love that somebody's going to reuse them and they cost nothing.
Curious, what is your approach when you as tenants?
So with the tenants, and I do occasionally get those, my goal is to go meet the tenants without the property manager, because there's usually a property manager involved, which they don't like, but I reassure them that I've done this lots of times and I'm going to make it work. I go out to the tenants and I get them to give me a Saturday. And I want all day Saturday. And I tell them that honestly, anybody walking in to look at this house is evaluating whether they want to keep you as a tenant. So put your best foot forward because they probably are going to want to rent it and you want to be able to stay here, right? Okay. So honestly, I do well with tenants. And then I put it out ahead of time saying on the MLS, like 2 weeks ahead of time, saying, here's the date. And it's the only date because it's tenant occupied that everybody can come through. And it's not a 2-hour open house. It's an all-day open house to give everybody a chance to get in. That's worked for me every time, from Bountiful to Salt Lake to every place I've had those. Okay. And by the way, the property management companies go, well, hell, everybody should be doing it that way. That was easy. Because now the tenants are not all flustered and houses look good. And they're willing to leave for a day because otherwise they get interrupted every day, lots of times. And I just sold a duplex in May. And it was my buyer. And we went in and the agent had done the same thing. The tenants were there. They were there. My tenants leave when I do it. But the tenants were there. And so was the agent. And they had it open for several hours. So we were able to get through. And my client and I made good use with the tenants. We did things like, so Paris, what have you liked best about living here? How long have you lived here? Any things that have been kind of a problem for you that wish were different? Oh, I'll find out everything. So that's what we did. So we made use of that. So far, they all really have. And again, I think the secret is a 2-week lead time on the MLS before you do it. So everybody can kind of plan to get there. And I'm the person that honestly, agents will call me and say, Lee, I'm going to be out of town. Can I send my client to you? And I'm like, absolutely, give me a name. So when they come in, I go, Susie told me you were coming. I'm so glad to meet you. Okay. So you just want to do it that way. And you hopefully create a reputation where people know that they can trust you to take their clients through, okay? But yeah, it's worked. I'm supposed to be a real pain in the neck if it didn't. I have to probably do it again in 2 weeks. My policy is to do an open house every other weekend, provided it doesn't fall on a holiday. So I would tell them that. Many times, many times. I've closed 4 deals in the last 12 months off of open houses that I did. Yeah. And true story, I sold one in Linden last December. Those people called me and asked me to come out and meet with them. And when I got there, they said, "You probably don't remember us." And I said, "I remember Suzanne, but I don't remember you." I said, "Did you have a beard all your life?" And he said, "No, beard's new." He says, "I met you at an open house." I said, "The one in Linden for $1.2 million." And he said, "Exactly. 8 years before." And they left that house. They didn't buy that house. They went and built a house ultimately. But when they left, they said, "We just talked to each other and said, if we ever sell a house, we're going to sell it with you." And they said, "We love the way you handled it." And I said, "Well, I'm a little pushy." And they said, "We love that about you. That was the big thing. We like that." So even those people, and this was a house in Linden, sold it opening weekend, but for more than he thought he was going to get for it also. I made them leave for 4 days. Said, "I don't care if you go camping. I don't care if you take a trip. I don't care if you rent a hotel room, put your feet up." And I mean, this was $1.6 million home. And I had them doing stuff. So it looked like $1.6 million home. So, okay. All right. We have to wind down. One more thing that I want you to have ready for next week. So let's talk about what are the things you have to have ready next week. Listing presentation of visual. Who's got the listing presentation of mine right now? Up, hold it up so they see. The written presentation. You have to have one of those. All right. I'm going to ask you to do a video. I don't care if it sucks. I just need you to get over the fear of doing a video because everybody has fear of doing it. I love videos because I can say, "No, try it again. Nope, try it again." I can screw up 10 times. It doesn't matter. I can just try again. Nobody ever knew I screwed up. They only see the final result. So I'm going to ask you to maybe find 2 other people and find a builder and a model home and go do your video. That'll mean like writing out a script, practicing the script. That's a big one to do in the next week. The other one's just command. That's easy. So that's a bigger one. And then the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is this. The listing documentation that I need to have a seller sign, I bring with me in a manila envelope. All my notes that I take for the seller, I put on the back of the envelope. It's not high tech at all. Name, address, phone number. Who do I owe a thank you to? In other words, who referred them? What's most important to them? What's the next most important? What's the next most, all of those kind of questions. You'll see this all next week. So I'm going to tell you real quick what documents are in here, and then you can make a list. Now, your documents don't have to be the same as mine, but since I don't have time to pass this around, I'm just going to tell you what's in mine. Okay, exclusive right to sell listing agreement. The contract one. I do one that says we're related to, in my case, it's Real Advantage Title. So it's called the Addendum to Exclusive Right to Sell, Disclosure of Affiliated Business and Preferred Vendors. Then I have one that is my one to break the rules. So for years on the Stern team in Salt Lake, we were paying over $1,000 a month in fines to the MLS. Because, well, we'll happily pay, not happily, but paying it. So the MLS has this rule, and tell me if it's still the rule, because I believe it is, that when you take a listing, you have 4 days to get it on the MLS. And that is not in my seller's best interest. That house is not ready to be on the MLS in 4 days. Rob, nobody puts it on in 3. You know, so the reality is that was not in the best interest. So I wouldn't do it and I'd be fined every single month over and over and over. So when we were hiring the new president for the MLS, Brad, out of California, I called him in California. And I said, so Brad, when are you coming? And he told me, I said, Brad, I'm gonna take you to lunch that week. So I did, took him to lunch and said, Brad, this does not serve the sellers well. If the house isn't, if it doesn't have pictures, what do we assume? Something's wrong with the house, right? Yeah, it's the only reason we have pictures. And if I have pictures in a 4-day period of time, they're either taken by me, which will suck because I can't even do this, okay? Or the house isn't going to be decluttered. Or I'm going to go out and meet with them and then 2 months later list it. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm listing it at the get-go. I'm not giving them a chance for somebody else to come in and Cameron to come in and take it away from me. He's on the red sign team. I'm in competition with him. Okay. So bottom line is I want to sign it then. So I met with him for lunch and I told him that. And I said, it works well for the buyers, but it doesn't work well for the sellers. And I'm not representing the buyers. And he said, Lee, the reason they do it is because some agents would use it to their advantage to double dip on both sides, represent the buyer and the seller in limited agency. And I said, well, here's the truth. I don't agree to limited agency. It's a personal thing. It's legal, but I do not agree. I think sellers want top dollar and buyers want a best deal. And I don't think those go together. And I just flat out in my career have refused to do them. And I said, go back 10 years on every sale I've had. You will never find a single one of them where I've represented both parties. So that is not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because my seller needs time to pack his crap. My seller needs time to declutter, to stage, to all of these things, to fix things, everything else, because I want the house to look the best it can possibly look from the get-go. So he said, well, I don't disagree with that. He did the homework, looked 10 years worth, no double dipping, and came back and said, okay, how are we going to do it? So we came up with an addendum that as long as I disclose what I'm doing and when I'm going to do it, no fines. So this isn't exclusive to us. This could be used for anybody. I fought the battle already, so you don't have to. But that one you may want to make a copy of. Yeah. Good. Okay. That would be you volunteering. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Cameron. You're like my jack of all trades, master of everything. Okay, I do a flex. Oh, go ahead. Oh, okay, so you can do it digitally. Okay, good. So yeah, so mine won't ever be done digitally because I'm doing paper. Yeah, kind of nice to talk to you this. Yeah. I do offer a flexible commission rate. That would be another one you might want to look at. I do offer a cancellation agreement. If they change their mind about selling, they don't like working with me, or they get a bee in their bonnet, they can cancel and owe me nothing. This is the MLS's addendum. It is kind of like the one Cameron's making, but the one Cameron's making is more detailed. Then you've got the data entry form for the MLS. All 6 pages, I think. 6.
There was a separate form.
Yeah, I do a flexible commission, a 6, a 5, and a 2. So 6% if one of the 13,000 realtors other than me sells it. 5% if a person on the Stern team brings the buyer. It won't be me, but it might be one of them. And 2% if they bring the buyer and register them with me and they don't have a realtor. And I'd charge a $400 marketing fee also. That's on this form. On those. Seller's property disclosure, I bring a hard copy. If they haven't done it online, then I want to have that with me. So I do bring that. I bring a lead-based paint disclosure in case it's 1978 or older. I bring the wire fraud one. even though a seller typically doesn't have to wire, but they may have to wire on their next purchase, so I want to cover that. And I bring both the multiple offer explanation and the multiple offer form. In case we get multiple offers, I don't want to chase down my clients because I've kicked them out of the house for X number of days anyways, and I don't know where they are. Yes. No, that's what the point is. Yeah. Yeah, so next week when you come, that'd be a shame for you to miss it. It's all about choices. So, all right, and then I also bring the home warranty, seller coverage, home warranty, which I leave with them. And I've got trusted providers that they might need to use. I've got two-man moving. I've got what I need on an HOA, if it's an HOA, for them to gather for me. And then I also go through my promise script with, again, next week for those who choose to come. I'll be covering that part too. Okay, so that's the other thing. I expect everybody to walk in with the manila envelope and the forms. Now, I'll tell you why I'm making you do this. I had this happen to me just like 2 weeks ago. Agent in my office comes to me and says, have you got a minute? Which happens every day, lots, and that's not a problem. And normally I do. And this guy said, so I've got a listing appointment in a couple of hours, and I just wondered what I should do. And I said, that is way more than a minute's conversation. So no, I won't do that with you. I won't. Just because you're unprepared does not mean I have to stop my day for an hour or two and get you prepared. So I need you prepared. Here's the other reason. The minute you're prepared, things happen. Remember the story about the broken down car theory? The minute he started pushing his car himself, he couldn't push it an inch by himself, but he was trying. He was prepared to do it. The minute you're prepared, somebody's going to say, hey, my brother's thinking about selling his house. But until you're prepared, somehow that doesn't happen. So this is the reason why you have homework. And I'm so glad that everybody said yes, they were going to do it. And by the way, don't show up next week if you haven't done it. Yeah. Pardon? You leave. You weren't here 3 years ago, were you? You came prepared then, didn't you? Yeah, he didn't say for the rest of it, did he? Okay, I saw a hand up. Yes.
On your packet, do you actually go with the packet? Do you get those out and offer to send that all to DocuSign?
No.
Show them, or you physically have them sign, or to the younger people, would you say, I can do this all? Honestly, have you signed because I feel like are ready onto the DocuSign.
Mhm.
Like that. So
Yeah.
at least I have those to show them, we walk through them. And then do you have them sit there and sign it, or do you say either or, what would you like?
I got you. So yes, even my 90-year-olds can do DocuSign. If my client is out of town, then I will do DocuSign. If my client is not out of town, we absolutely would do it in person. Yep, period. My youngsters have never done it before, so this is a first time for them. My older folks are often doing it as the executor of their parents' estate, and mom has died. They're now having to explain to 4 other family members why they've signed something and what they've done. I want them to understand being an executor is a big responsibility and not an easy one many times. So I want them to understand. And then honestly, I come with this already filled out on a listing appointment. So I'm going to make sure that, yeah, and I paraphrase each paragraph in 1 sentence so they understand what we're doing. So I will always do it in person unless they're out of state, out of town. Then I have to use
And then
DocuSign.
if they are having multiple agents, you're assuming you're getting it too. That's another thing. Their name's in it, it's filled out, and you're like, let's do this.
Well, yes, why would you go on a listing presentation and not think you're taking the listing? So I always, when people say I'm going on going on a listing presentation, I went, well, don't go on the presentation, just go take a listing. It's a mindset, Robin. So you should come next week when we cover that form. Yep, because we will cover that form. Yeah,
Meantime, do you personalize your listing presentations to the seller? Like, do you change the text that they're gonna read at all?
no. No, and even if they've done 4 and 5 and 6 deals with me, no. Just, it's the same every time. Yes, no, my assistant will send them a copy of that. Yes, I will leave them with their comps packet where we talked about pricing. And by the way, on the inside of the back cover of that, this one, I haven't gone out to meet them yet. That's where I will put the estimated net sheet. On the back inside cover, on the front inside cover is where we will do the time frame, unless they have a family calendar. If they have that, I make them get that. We write that all on their family calendar while we're there. Otherwise, it goes in here. Then all they have to do is keep this. Don't pack this. Okay? Yep. One by one by one. And they understand it. The copy, no, you missed that part. They're signing it there. I come with it already filled out. I explain each document. They sign it in front of me. I take them all with me and my assistant will send them an email copy. Okay? Yeah, I think, it's interesting, guys, and this is a big deal on court cases. And you'll see questions often about it from legal counsel at UAR. Too often we're doing contracts and not explaining them. And with DocuSign, it's real easy to do that. I have a policy when I get offers, I send them in a format they cannot sign and tell them they have to call me. And that way I have time to go through it. Then I send it in a format they can sign. I never send them one to be signed from the get-go. They have to get one. Then I can prove to the world, they got it, we talked. Then I sent it. Okay? And in the back? I like that. Okay, all right. All right, well, now I've kept you late, started you late, kept you later. I apologize for that. Glad to have all of you here. Looking forward to next week and seeing all your homework. I promise I will be here before 10. I probably will come early next week since I've got homework that you're doing and I am going to want to see it. So bring your homework. I'll be here wandering around early. Okay? Yeah. Ugh.